very much, members. We'll now move on to item 3, which is urgent matters.
No, Chair, we have no urgent matters.
Thank you, Jane. We'll now move on to the minutes. And the minutes are on pages 4 to 22. Are members happy to take the minutes, or do you want me to go through them page by page?
I'll move them, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that's Bob is going to propose the minutes, and Joan Vaughan is going to second those. Thank you. If members are happy with those minutes, could they please show by raising their hands? That's great. That's unanimous, I think. Thank you very much. We will now move on to item 5, which is minutes of the local area forum South. These are to be presented by Councillor Garfield Lewis, who is the chair of the local area forum. Councillor Garfield, thank you for being with us this evening.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Byddai yn cyflwyno cofnodion yn Gymraeg, os di pawb yn hapus efo hynny. Lle'r cofnodion, fel sydd i'w gweld ar tudalen 23 ymlaen, y peth cyntaf dafwyd i wneud yn y cyfarfod oedd dewis cadeirydd, felly fi di hwnnw, cynghorydd Garfield Lewis, ac is-gadeirydd y cynghorydd Elizabeth Roberts. A'i mlaen i pwynt 7, i'r gwaith gafodd ei wneud yn ystod y finos a'r cofnodion. Gafon ni ddiweddariad am beth sy'n digwydd i ddepo i ganolfan y cyngor Plas yn Dre yn Llanrwst. Mae'r gwaith yn cario ymlaen o drio cael gwarad o'r safle, a mi fyddan ni'n cael diweddariad cyson gan yr adran a gan Andrew Wilkinson, a mi fyddan ni'n cael yr adroddiad nesaf yn y cyfarfod nesaf o'r fforwm wythnos nesaf. Me gafon ni wybodaeth hefyd am beth sy'n digwydd yn y depo yn Ngherrig y Dridion. Tebyg y fanna, mae yna waith yn cael ei wneud. Mae wedi cael ei ddefnyddio ychydig eleni, ond yn amlwg yn y pen draw mae'r safle hynny hefyd yn mynd i gael i symud ymlaen a'i gwerthu, a mi fyddan ni'n cael diweddariad ar hwnnw hefyd yn y fforwm y tro nesaf. Mi gafon ni adroddiad gan Malcolm Tidswell o Pwyllgor Llanrwst o'r adran Hamdden. Adroddiad diddorol iawn, deud y gwir. Na i jyst deud ddau o'r penawdan fan hyn ar effaith mae Covid, y pandemig, wedi gael ar y Pwyllgor. Cyn y pandemig, roedd 3,500 o unigolion yn defnyddio Pwyllgor Llanrwst bob mis. Mae'r ffigwr yna wedi mynd lawr i tua 500 y mis ar hyn o bryd. Mae yna gynlluniau tymor byr a tymor hir i dyfu'r gwasanaeth yn ôl, wrth gwrs, pan fydd yr amodau yn caniatáu hynny a pan fydd y cyhoedd yn cael dechrau defnyddio'r lle yn llawn eto. Mi fydd y fforwm hefyd yn trafod weledigaeth yn uwch am Llanrwst ar y cyfan a'r pwllnofion ffitio mewn i hynny hefyd. Ac mi fyddan ni'n cael briff yn cael adroddiad ar y weledigaeth ar uwch gynllun Llanrwst yn cyfarfod ni wythnos nesaf. Fe drafodwyd wedyn y rhaglen gwaith i'r dyfodol a chafwyd gytundeb ar rhai o'r prif bwyntiau y bydd y fforwm yn ymwneud â hi a nhw dros y flwyddyn nesaf. Felly dwi'n cyflwyno'r cofnodion fel ag y maen nhw, cynonodeb oedd hwnna i'w cymeradwyo gynnoch chi.
Councillor Garfield, we thank you very much for that. Do members have any comments on the minutes, on those minutes? Councillor Liz?
Thank you very much, Garfield. I'd like to say that I'd like to give thanks to Marianne Jackson for being the officer who has led on the South Area Forum, and Andy Wilkinson has now taken over. So I would just like to thank Marianne very much indeed for the support that she has given us from the very beginning of these area forums. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Liz. So we need to note those minutes. Do we have a proposer and seconder that we note those? Councillor Aaron and a seconder. Councillor Joan, thank you very much. If members are happy with those minutes, could you please raise your hands and show? That's great. Those have been approved. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the minutes of the local area forum North. And these will be presented by Councillor Harry Saville, chair of that forum. Councillor Harry?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The minutes are included in the agenda pack and are pretty self-explanatory. members might have noticed that there was an item where we agreed that an issue relating to Airbnb properties would be referred to this committee, with the hopes that you'd look to set up a task and finish group to review the problem. I'm not sure what the process of that is. Does this committee have to vote to go ahead with that, or will it just appear on a forward work programme? I'd be grateful if someone could clarify that. We also had a short discussion about how infrastructure that falls within parking services is maintained and how the maintenance of that's funded. I think that might be relevant to the discussion we'd like to have about Llanrwst car park later this evening. So I'm happy to come in with those comments at that point. But just at this point in time, happy to propose that you note the minutes, and I'd also like some clarification about how the issue of Airbnb properties makes it onto an agenda for this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Harry. I would presume it would go via a topic selection form, but Dawn will...
Yeah, I mean, this matters. As a scrutiny committee, obviously you can establish task and finish groups. Who is the officer? Did you have any officers presenting, Harry, at the meeting?
No, I've got a suspicion at this meeting. Yep, we have Peter Brown present.
Right, yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to know who would lead on this, because I know it's been discussed. I know Councillor Joan had meetings regarding this. Harry, can you just leave it with me? We've got a chairs and vice chairs meeting on Monday. And then I will come back to you, because I know there has been a lot of discussions behind the scenes, and I know Councillor Jones had meetings because there were similar concerns in the area of Conway. So like you say, leave it with me. I will come back to you. And like you say, we have got another meeting of the economy in place on the 17th of February. So I will provide some feedback by then, if that's okay with you. And then obviously you can make, the committee can make the decision it needs to then.
Yeah, that's fine. All the details as to where we'd like the discussion to go are in the minutes. So
yeah, that's fine. Lovely. Yeah, like you say, I'll find out what's been going on, and like you say, other discussions. So and then like you say, we can go from there.
That's great. Thanks.
Lovely. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Harry. So we need to note these minutes, members. So we need a proposer and seconder.
I've proposed them.
Oh, I'll second them.
Okay, so Harry has proposed the minutes, and Carol, as Vice Chair, has seconded those minutes. If members are happy with that, could you please show by raising your hands? Yes, those minutes have been accepted. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 6, which is the minutes of the North Wales Police and Crime Panel. These are going to be presented to the committee for information only. Who's presenting them, Dawn?
No, they're just for information only. The
okay.
Crime and Disorder Scrutiny Committee, I think it was agreed that the minutes would come here just for your information. I'm not sure whether Councillor Alan Hunter is on the meeting. He's one of the representatives, and so is Councillor Roger Parry, but I don't think they're on the meeting there. But like you say, there's a copy of the minutes there just for your information. So it's just for noting.
Thank you very much, Dawn.
Proposed to receive them, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, what was that?
Proposed that we receive them.
Yes, indeed. So you're going to propose that, and Councillor Harry will second that. Show of hands, please. Thank you. Dawn, just talking about Councillor Hunter, I don't know whether you've had apologies, but I'd heard that he'd lost his father recently. So that may be the reason why he's absent.
Right, no problem. We'll submit his apologies.
Thank you. So members will now move on to item 7, which is to review the forward work programme. Scrutiny and Committee Services Officer Dawn is going to present this to us, I think.
Yes, that's right, Chair. So for the purpose of the live streaming, I'm Dawn Hughes, and I'm the Scrutiny and Committee Services Officer for Conway. So the Economy in Place Forward Plan is on pages 46 to 58 of your agenda packs. Just a couple of things that I need to highlight to you. The meeting that was scheduled for the 24th of March has been moved now to the 8th of March. It probably is changed in your diaries, and that is in order to consider the notices of motion that were put forward by Councillors Aron and Councillors Donmill to Council regarding flooding. So we've moved it because obviously if the elections go ahead, we need to be mindful of the purdah period. So yes, they will come on the 8th of March with a report from ERF. And then the next next meeting on the 17th of February, just to advise you that we have a few reports coming back on that. We've got the rights of way improvement plan. We've got the update on the ash dieback. I think that was something Councillor Harry was interested in. And we've got the revised library strategy. So that needs to come to us before it goes out to consultation. So that's my update, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dawn. If members are happy with the forward work programme, could we have a proposer and seconder, please? Harry, and Michael's going to second that. Could you please show by raising your hands, members? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so item 8 is questions to Cabinet members. I don't believe we have any.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you, Jay. So item 9 is to receive an update by the Managing Director of Chraffu Conway, Katie Clubb, Managing Director of Chraffu Conway, together with Sharon Jones, Director of Partnership and Social Value, and David Kelsall is also here this evening to assist, Assistant Director of Development and Growth. Katie, good evening.
Hello, Northwest Star. Good evening, everybody. Do you want me just to head straight into it, Councillor?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry, just to cut across, could I ask that you choose your language of choice? So if you click on the interpretation button.
I think I had done that. Let me just.
Are you all? I'd hate for yourself or your colleagues to miss any.
Yeah, no. When I hover now, it says English. Is that right?
Yes. If you need the help of translation, yes, please choose English. If you are clever enough to speak both languages, you can choose Cymraeg.
Okay. Deep
Thank you.
I'm not. Okay. Okay. As I say, not like that. As you've just introduced, I have Sharon with me and David, our Director of Partnership and Social Value and Assistant Director of Development and Growth. So I'm just going to talk for a few minutes, give a bit of an introduction and pull out some of our highlights. We've got a short video to show you, and then Sharon and David are going to talk a bit further about some of the social value impact and our development programme. So I think to start with, just to say that we're really grateful that we get this opportunity each year to come back and return and update you on our activities as part of our ongoing promise from the transfer agreement in 2008, and also an opportunity to share some of the highlights from the year. So I really just wanted to start with, touching on what a difficult year it has been. We know it's been incredibly challenging for our communities, businesses, our tenants and our colleagues. At Chraffu Conway, like yourselves at the council and other organisations, we had to adapt really quickly. We moved our colleagues to home working immediately, and I guess our priority was the health and safety and the well-being of our tenants and our colleagues. So due to restrictions as they've changed, we have had to pause some of our services. So for any of our colleagues who weren't able to do their normal roles, they were shifted over to our wellbeing service, which was really around ensuring that those that were self-isolating or vulnerable had regular contact, in some cases practical assistance, shopping and prescriptions and collections. So that's how we've moved the work around for those non-essential activities that had to end. The good news is, in terms of our essential work, we've maintained outstanding sort of health and safety compliance levels across all of our homes through the pandemic. And obviously, initially in March, we did have to close down development sites while we re-looked at safe operating procedures, re-implemented health and safety approaches following COVID, but since then they've remained up and running through the pandemic as well. And for us at Chraffu, our tenants are very much at the heart of everything we do, and that's been as important as ever over the last few months. Our tenant board member is the chair of our tenant service board, and we also have a tenant scrutiny panel made up of tenants. So myself, the chair of tenant service board, and the chair and vice chair of the scrutiny panel have been meeting fortnightly through the pandemic, so we've got a really clear communication both ways. So despite all of this, and despite it being a difficult time, we have had some really positive achievements and news. So I hope that After touching on some of that, we can be a bit more upbeat now. I think one of the exciting things for ourselves and for the area is that, and you may have seen it in the press, we've secured an extra 39 million in funding to build 1,000 new homes. Now, around 22 million of that is from Lloyds Bank, and Chraffu Conway is really pleased to be the first social housing landlord, not only in Wales, but in the UK, to tap into their environmental, social and governance interest rate reduction scheme. So this rewards activity around zero carbon homes, helping people into work and tackling homelessness. So for us, it's just a great news story. We're going to be able to build much needed new affordable housing at the same time as tackling the climate crisis, boosting the North Wales economy and supporting the council to end homelessness. So it's been great news. Back end of the year, I think it's what we needed. Now, David's going to talk a bit later about some of the highlights of our current development programme and show you some pictures of how some of that's looking. So the other good news we had at the back end of the year was our subsidiary, which I hope many of you will be aware about, Creating Enterprise, was named the fastest growing firm in Wales in the 2020 Wales Fast Growth 50 Awards. Quite an incredible achievement. So as well as maintaining our 4,000 properties, Creating Enterprise has launched another successful venture constructing modular homes. So they will be building 350 passive house properties across North Wales, creating a further 50 jobs in the process. This is the first venture of its kind by a social enterprise in Wales. Modular properties, as you'll be aware, again, will create much needed homes and employment, but also for many of our tenants tackle that issue around fuel poverty. And the way Creating Enterprise works is that any profits, any commercial profits, are reinvested back into Creating Futures Academy. The Academy has supported over 90 people back into employment over the course of last year and through the pandemic. You know, a life-changing boost for many people in the community. And again, Sharon is here to talk about some of the other projects that have emerged in response to the pandemic and the issues being faced by communities. So I won't talk much more about that as Sharon will pull out some more detail around there. So I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on really was around our partnership with the local authority. Really feel that over the last few months that's been strengthened some. Before the pandemic, we had the floods. And again, we, key partner in helping that emergency planning response and certainly leading on our Ron estate where that was happening. And then a month or two later, we joined with social care and the voluntary sector as part of that community incident response when the first lockdown hit. So in terms of homelessness, we've always worked really closely through our Housing Solutions partnership with Sam and her team. Again, we feel like this partnership really stepped up this year. We at Chraffu Conway have been, really impressed with the council's response and support for communities through this difficult time. But I think in particular, the work of Sam and her team and that really challenging job of accommodating all homeless households, and then the subsequent Welsh Government asked that all those accommodated do not return to the street. So we've been really proud to work alongside Sam and be in discussions with herself and the cabinet member, Councillor Charlie, around how we can support and help with that response. So we have put on hold a significant regeneration scheme in Conway to instead deliver those units as a supported housing project. So households can be moved out of emergency accommodation and receive wraparound support in that environment. And it just felt like the right thing to do in the circumstances. So again, other areas we've been supporting around are the sort of core running of our business. We've, along with other RSLs and in partnership with the council, agreed an amended lettings policy temporarily to promote, to give more priority to homeless households. We have committed to a journey towards no evictions into homelessness ourselves, so that we are never a part of that problem being managed. We have our social lettings agency working hand in hand with the council to try and access affordable and suitable accommodation out in the private rented sector as well. So it's been, it feels like we've sort of worked closer than ever over the last, over the last difficult times. So very proud of our achievements as a business, which give great opportunities for us and to maximise our social impact and address that need for affordable housing. So we are now going to hand over and show you a short video which gives you all the highlights from last year, and then I'll be handing over. Now this video is in English, but we have sent the link for a Welsh version as well. Thank you, Gita. That was a whistle-stop tour of 2020 for us, and I'm now going to hand over to Sharon, who's going to talk a bit more about some of the community projects that Creating Futures have been running.
Good evening. Just bear with me a second while I just share my screen for a short presentation for you. So despite COVID, it has been a really exciting year at Creating Enterprise, with many new projects, as Katie said, being developed despite the challenges of the pandemic. Our social value is delivered through the Creating Futures team, who are based at our headquarters in Mockdra, and our employability programmes have been even more important over the past year. However, new ways have had to be found, just like everything else, for us to be able to still offer such a valuable service. So just some of our highlights have been accessing emergency COVID funding from the National Lottery to employ 2 new job search coordinators to help people in our community who've lost their jobs through COVID. And as Katie said, we've helped 90 people so far gain employment. We've supported in the writing of 168 CVs and helped with 292 application forms. We also transformed our mobile jobs bus so that it was COVID safe, and it went out into the community to help those that couldn't get to us or haven't got that digital access. And this enabled colleagues to actually give one-to-one support actually outside people's own homes. We also moved our support online. We provided one-to-one job search, group sessions over Teams, and transformed our training so that it could be delivered digitally. We ran a passport to construction for women, and we're just about to launch a new passport to care in February. And we continue to grow our employment academy, which offers paid employment to tenants. And even in the middle of the pandemic, we created 6 new roles, which commenced in the summer, along with 4 new apprentice roles. Our work also continues with the subcontractors, with our expectation that for every £1 million worth of contract that they are awarded, that they employ one of our tenants. And so far, 6 jobs have been created this way. And volunteering is a huge part of our work, and previously we would have had up to 50 people over a year gaining work experience with us. So again, we had to adapt our volunteer roles really quickly so that people didn't become socially isolated. We again were able to access some emergency funding from the WCVA, which we used to mobilise a volunteer team to provide a wellbeing support to vulnerable tenants. And since March, 19 volunteers have made over 2,000 phone calls and 100 food shops to 130 tenants. We're also planning on rolling out a new service to older people in Conway later this year to help people remain in their homes for longer. This new service will be called Independent Me and will be a befriending service. And this will be run by a team of up to 75 volunteers, supporting almost 200 older people to remain independent and offer them a whole host of support, such as company whilst out shopping or in their own home or going for walks. As the world has moved more to digital, we are really aware that many of our tenants, particularly those that are older, just don't have that capability. So again, we developed a new project. We called it Loan It and gained a grant from the wind farm through CVSC to purchase tablets with mobile data. We then trained volunteers through Digital Communities Wales to provide training and ongoing support to those that we loaned the devices to. And we quickly realised what a huge lifeline this was to elderly people. And through further support from Digital Communities Wales, and even using Cadrevi Conway's old iPads, we've now got 40 tablets that we loan for up to 3 months at a time. And each tenant is given as much support as they need from the volunteer to help them learn how to use it for things like online shopping, keeping in touch with family and friends, and really importantly, accessing health appointments. And at the end of the loan period, many have been so taken with using the internet that they've either bought their own devices, or we're now in talks with our supply chains for them to be able to give their redundant IT equipment to us so that we can permanently donate them to tenants. And we know that providing a house sometimes just isn't enough. So last year we developed our Second Chance Furniture project. Again, a really simple idea. Many tenants leave their properties but don't always take their belongings with them. So we started collecting these items and keeping them for tenants in need. We now have a small warehouse where we keep all the items and volunteers help to clean and log them. And to date, we've collected over 300 and donated free of charge 227 items to 61 families in need, some of which have been referred by CCBC's homeless team. And Creating Futures team has also been supporting 12 previously homeless people who have been accommodated at one of our properties in Old Colwyn, and we're providing them with daytime support and activities to build up their confidence and skills, obviously with the ultimate aim that they'll be able to sustain their own tenancy and hopefully gain employment. And funding for this new way of working, again, was provided through CCBC, but also again, the WCPA Recovery Fund. And 2 years ago, we began running a new programme funded through the National Lottery. The aim was to support working families in Conway who were still struggling financially. And the unique difference about this project was that there actually was no project in the beginning. The funding would be used by working families themselves to decide through co-production what they felt was really important to them. And over that first year of co-production, we worked with more than 50 families to establish 2 projects, an out-of-school activities project for children and also a loyalty card scheme. And again, like all our other projects, we really had to adapt this so that we could still continue to run it over the last year. And we've had amazing success with this project. Firstly, our out-of-school activities took on a whole new meaning. We had to develop online remote sessions. We also set up a YouTube channel and we created 14 videos. We delivered over 250 packs to families' houses over the summer and Christmas period so that they could take part in sessions like bake-off, gardening, pumpkin carving and Christmas crafts, with almost 300 children taking part. And in the summer, we even managed an outdoor storytelling session, a socially distanced scavenger hunt and a trip to the zoo. But in addition to that, we were still working on our loyalty card, which has now been launched with its own website and app. That's called Creating Loyalty. And we have more than 60 local independent businesses signed up to the scheme, offering a whole array of discounts solely for card users. And we so far got 55 families, and that's growing all the time, actively using those rewards. And I think that's a real success story of local businesses and local people supporting each other. And finally, we developed a really great partnership with Transport for Wales. And earlier in the year, Creating Enterprise became the host for the Community Rail Partnership for the Conway Valley Line. We'll also hopefully be opening our new community hub at Llandudno train station, where we can offer the local community a place to gain information on what is available to them, be better in touch with housing support and access employment advice. We really want to create a welcoming space for people to come and find out what's on offer for them in their community. So that gives you a snapshot of what Chraffu Conway and Creating Enterprise have been doing over the last year in terms of social value within our community. And so I shall hand over to David.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, everyone. As Katie mentioned earlier, our development sites were closed for a short period at the beginning of the pandemic, and there have been continuing challenges since. But I'm pleased to say that we're still on course to deliver 75 homes in Conway this financial year, which is actually the most we've delivered in 1 year and compares to 46 delivered in the county for the last financial year. But I'm conscious just quoting numbers doesn't really tell you about the homes that we're delivering. So I thought I'd just take a few minutes to share some images and highlight some of the developments that you've just seen in the video. So if you just bear with me, I will also share my screen. So before I move on to some of the larger developments, I want to quickly mention our ongoing Empty Homes programme. As many of you will know, Chraffu Conway has been supporting the work of the Empty Homes Officer within the Housing Strategy team of the local authority for the past 8 years. This has been through financial support, with this year's contribution being just over £40,000, and also directly purchasing and renovating empty homes in the county through a combination of private finance and grant. To date, we've delivered 55 affordable homes through this programme, with 13 of those homes receiving adaptations for physical disabilities, and we're currently in the process of purchasing a further 4. So before just sort of moving on to some of our larger developments, but I just wanted to mention this one, which is a little bit older than some of the others, but I couldn't let the opportunity go by without telling you that we won Small Development of the Year at the CIH Welsh Housing Awards for our development at Llys Cynfran off Berthaglid Road in Old Colwyn. This was a challenging, steeply sloping site, which I'm sure many of you know of, and the judges appreciated the design of 10 split level houses and 7 apartments. We used the change in levels to not only provide 3 wheelchair adapted apartments on the lower ground floor, access from Pelvis Lane, but also further level access apartments above, approach from the estate road behind. This raised site also provided some rather spectacular views, as you can see from the picture in the top of the slide. Last year, we also completed the conversion of a 3-storey traditional property on Conway Road in the west end of Colwyn Bay. This provides 8 apartments and a fully refurbished shop in a prominent corner location. Despite the difficult times, the shop let quickly, which I felt was a very good sign for the future. This is now one of several similar conversions we've undertaken in the area to provide affordable homes for working people on low incomes, intended to complement the continued regeneration of Colwyn Bay and support local businesses trading in the area. You'll also see on the bottom half of the slide that we're close to completing another similar intermediate rental scheme, this time a newly built block of 16 apartments in Llandudno. As you would expect in this location, we've received a large number of inquiries for these much needed homes. We've just completed our first modular properties in Conway, having been built in our Creating Enterprise Modular Solutions factory and forming part of the great work around skills and employment just highlighted by Sharon. The 8 one-bedroom properties in Old Colwyn will be used as move-on accommodation by the local authority homelessness team and provide safe and warm homes where tenants can receive tailored support. We see this sort of scheme as typifying the strategic support we can provide to the local authority, and it strengthens the close working relationship that we have. Our next modular homes are already in construction on 2 sites in Llanrwst. Trosolwg comprises 8 houses, being a combination of 2 and 3 bedroom, and is due for completion later this summer. We've also recently demolished the maisonettes at Llanrwg to be replaced by 3 and 4 bedroom family houses. This complements the refurbishment of the flats retained on the site, and together we hope will provide something the community can be proud of. We're also working with 2 other North Wales social landlords to fabricate and supply modular frames for the proposed properties on local authority owned land in Penrhyn Bay, the first of many collaborations, I'm sure. We strongly believe that these modular passive homes with their high thermal efficiency, increased soundproofing and mechanical ventilation will improve the health and well-being of our customers and combat fuel poverty, embracing innovation and delivering homes fit for the future. And then last but certainly not least is the scheme we are perhaps most proud of, having worked so closely with members of the estates, housing and social care teams within the local authority, as well as receiving the unanimous support of local members. As you know, the future of the Grade 2 listed Ysgol Margan was far from certain, and we believe this development will ensure a sustained future whilst providing an asset the community will hopefully embrace. As I'm sure most of you know, we will be providing homes for people with learning and physical disabilities, allowing independent living, but with support from nearby Canolfan Mall. There are also several adapted properties serving the specific needs of families moving into them. One of the families moving in has been in temporary accommodation for over 3 years, and it has not previously been possible to find suitable accommodation elsewhere in the county. The remaining houses on the development will provide homes for young people leaving care, as well as social housing. We're also excited by a smaller project within this overall project, and you'll see at the bottom of the slide a schematic which is showing a garden that will be created. The infrastructure is in place, and over the coming planting season, we will be creating a sensory garden in the centre of the development. Due to COVID restrictions, we've had to adapt our plans somewhat, but have still been able to involve the pupils of Ysgol Alawen Mynydd in this project, and we are looking forward to seeing their pictures of herbs, which will be made into ceramic tiles and incorporated into the garden for all to see. We're now a matter of weeks away from completion of the development and can't wait to see the residents moving in. All of the schemes you've just seen required some degree of grant funding and couldn't have been possible without the support of Sam Parry and the rest of Conway's housing strategy team. In fact, the sensory garden at Ysgol Margan was also supported by Integrated Care Fund, which wouldn't have been possible without Claire Lister and Conway's social care team being so supportive of what we're trying to deliver. So essentially what I'm saying is that we appreciate your support and we can all hopefully be proud of what we're delivering in the county. So looking to the future, as Casey mentioned, we have just refinanced and secured an additional £39 million in private funding to support a development programme of 1,000 homes over the next 10 years. We're already in conversation with landowners and developers in Conwy, with pipeline schemes at various stages amounting to several hundred homes. And with your continued support, we remain committed to tackling the housing shortage and delivering many new affordable homes over the coming years. Thank you. I'll just back to Katie just to sum up.
Thank you both. I've got nothing, I think we've thrown so much information at you, so I think what I'll say is that we're very happy to take any questions or comments that the committee have, if that's okay, Chair.
That's fine, Katie. You'll have to bear with me. I think I've got some miners burrowing into my office here.
Glad I'm not the only
Thank you very much. I will open it up to the floor while I mute my microphone.
I believe Councillor Aaron Wynne wants to come in together with Phil Capper, Chris Hughes and Harry.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, a diolch i Katie ac i'r tîm i gyd am y cyflwyniad ac am eich gwaith gwych y pandemig. Mae'n wych clywed bod chi wedi codi gymaint o dai yn y flwyddyn dwytha. Mae'r angen am fwy o dai fforddiadwy a dai cymdeithasol erbyn hyn, dwi'n meddwl yn argyfwng. Mae wir angen mwy ohonyn nhw, a da ni wir angen mwy ohonyn nhw yn yr ardal wledig. Gyda rai teuluoedd ifanc wir yn desbryd am dŷ. Yn anffodus, does o ddim pob amser tir addas ar gael i godi mwy o dai. Hynny oherwydd llifogydd neu tir anaddas neu beth bynnag. So, gai ofyn pa gynlluniau out of the box sydd gennych chi mwyn cynyddu stoc cymdeithasol yn yr ardal wledig. Diolch fawr.
Thank you. That sounds like a question for my Director of Development and Growth.
Thank you, Councillor Aaron. As I'm sure you're aware, because it's very, very close to you, we have been committed in the past to rural developments, and Penmachno was one that, again, actually we won an award for. That scheme was actually for 12 properties. We've built 6, and there is still planning permission for another 6 there. We've actually been discussing with the rural housing enabler of how we could bring those forward and doing further work. It all does stem from support, and you're right, I do need the land. I also need the financial support, and the rural housing enabler has been sort of key to that, into guiding demand. In terms of out of the box, I don't think I have anything. If I'm totally straight with you, there is nothing clever that I can magically say to you other than looking for opportunities. Obviously, if we do find those opportunities, we can convert, we can demolish, rebuild if it's brownfield sites. If we can't always achieve something on a greenfield site. And you will have seen that through the presentation, some of the properties that we have taken on in that fashion. And obviously try and bring our new warm modular homes into use in rural areas, probably with different sources of heating as well, because I know that's an issue, oil boilers, etc. in rural areas, and we've been looking at sort of air source heat pumps, etc. and renewables to go with those. So I don't really have a magic bullet, if I'm honest, but there are areas around that we are definitely working on.
Councillor Phil Capper, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank everybody for the presentation, which has been most informative and encouraging. I'd also like to apologise for not having my video on, but I've got a very poor internet connection. It was mentioned by Katie that you've adopted a policy of no eviction into homelessness. So I'd just like to ask the question, how does this equate with extreme antisocial behaviour, which does occasionally occur?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. So what we've committed to is a journey towards that, and we believe that is achievable. And I think the key to it is it's no evictions into homelessness. So it's not that somebody wouldn't need to leave the home that they're in, and examples of antisocial behaviour are perfect examples of that. So what we have done to date is we have worked with other registered social landlords to look at transfers. We've also looked and recognised where some households might benefit from a supported housing placement. So it's not that that journey and that no evictions doesn't mean that somebody could always just stay in their current home and behave exactly as they want. We do have to take that action. It's around not sort of that style of just us serving notice and somebody coming to that council door homeless. It's around us looking at that solutions and in that core value of people having a right to a home, as looking at where's the most suitable home for someone that will work for them.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Katie.
Okay, thank you, Philip, for your question. Councillor Chris Hughes, I think you got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks. And can I thank you, Katie, for the presentation? It's excellent. I can't let this meeting go by without paying thanks to the brilliant work of your team and your predecessor, Gwyn Jones, during the floods on the Vaughan estate. I was up there for 3 weeks, every day for 3 weeks, and every single time I went there, there was Chraffu staff on site, there was Chraffu staff available to speak to if there was a particular issue, if a resident had a problem. And as you know, this is about the 4th or 5th time that we've seen floods in that area, and I think it's true to say that in the past it hadn't always been as good, but certainly last winter the problems we had then and the response from your team and from everybody involved was fantastic, and I have to take my hat off and congratulate you all.
Thank you very much.
That's all I wanted to say, really. I didn't have any questions. The presentation was excellent.
Thank you very much for that, and I'll certainly pass on the thanks to Gwyn. He will appreciate that. And I think it's important for me to mention that again we were very much supported by Richard Evans and the health and safety. Again, we worked hand in hand with the council. It was very much a partnership in terms of that response, and I'm sure you'll be reassured to know that we have an application in for works to prevent, because you done, didn't you? It happened before. We are looking at how we can stop that happening again. But I'm really happy that you're pleased with the response. I know it's really distressing for tenants when that happens.
Well, we've had obviously the recent rainfall. Residents and myself were extremely worried, and we've been going up there 2 or 3 times a day to check on it. And although the water flow has been high, it's been nowhere near breaching, which is good.
Yeah, no, it's been closely monitored as well.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Councillor Harry Saville.
Thank you, Chairman. In the video, you showed us the development you've got Sefton Road today. I just wondered, when did you expect to start accepting residents, tenants, people into those properties?
The Sefton Road modular properties are the next few weeks. They have been handed over and they are ready. I hope David's nodding at me. Yeah, so that's imminent now, and we have the named people ready. So they have been handed over from the development team and will be occupied within the next few weeks.
That's great news. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harry. Councillor Charlie McCoubrey.
Thanks for letting me speak, Chair. It was this time last year, I think I joined Chraffu Conwy in a sleep out in Conwy, roughly this time. And who would know that was a social highlight of my year, 2020, but there you go. Katie was very kind enough to say about how well we as an authority have worked with Chraffu. I'd like to replay that compliment. It's been really, really good to see throughout the year. We couldn't have done what we've done without them. And I think they enter into things absolutely in the same spirit that we do. So it's been a pleasure to work with them. I've been lucky enough to visit a few of the new developments that were shown, and the quality of the work and the design behind them is really, really special. It's really, really good. So I'd just like to offer my thanks as Cabinet Member for all the hard work they do, and I look forward to working in better times and getting a chance to view a few more of your exciting projects. So thank you very much. And I have one quick question, actually. Sorry, Nigel, running away with myself. Sharon mentioned the hubs and the train stations in the Valley and in Llandudno. The train station in Pensarn is undergoing regeneration, and we've actually got a meeting at a presentation at Abergele Place Plant tomorrow night about it. Is that something you may have looked into at all, Sharon, or is it on your radar?
Yeah, I think Transport for Wales have got other social enterprises and community organisations penciled in for looking at moving into those train stations. Already there's been a lot of interest from a lot of community groups, I believe.
Well, I'll find out tomorrow night. They hadn't when we had a site visit there about a month or so ago, so obviously I will find out tomorrow night. But anyway, okay, thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Charlie. Councillor Keith Eales, you've got your hand up next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Katie, Sharon and David. It's only a quick question. I've got some residents in Llandulus looking at electric vehicles, and also in the job that I do, there is government grants for charging points for electric vehicles. But there seems to be some problems with some people being able to access the grants because the government won't allow you to run a cable over the pavement, or they won't, if you're on some sort of, it's almost the equivalent of a massive ring main in Penmaenmawr. Customers bought a car, they've gone to access the government's grant for putting a charging point on the house, and the terraced house is on something equivalent to a big ring main, so they won't fit the charging points. So I was wondering, with some of the developments at this stage at the moment of building, where it would be easier to fit a charging point, whether it would be worth exploring the idea of having a open access charging point as opposed to individual property charging points. So it was only a quick question to see if it had been explored before everything is finalised and the properties are handed over, you know.
Thank you, Councillor Keith. We haven't considered open access, and that's definitely something I could take back and have a conversation about. We are considering charging points in our flatted apartment block developments. In terms of capacity, I know there's been discussion with one that we're looking at the moment of needing another substation. So there is capacity issues, but it's actually part of a sustainability strategy that we're currently working on throughout the business. So it's not just on the development side, it's throughout the business as a whole. And that's looking into car charging amongst many other things. But I'll certainly take back and look into the public one. Thank you.
Yes, very good point.
Yeah, there's something about the through my work, it's feedback from people that have paid the equivalent of 30,000 or whatever for a car, and then they can't get a charger at home because they haven't got off-street parking. So they have to have a driveway before you can access the grant for the charging point. So it's only like the Fairview, it's sort of the parking is over the way from the properties, you see. So if somebody living in the Fairview apartments has a parking space at the opposite end of the car park, you won't be able to run a cable. So it was only something worth considering, but I'd appreciate that if it's something that you could look into.
Happily look into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good point, Keith, especially when I think it's 2035, they're going to stop production of petrol and diesel engines. They're going to be all new cars will be electric. So something going forward there. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Sam Cotton, Vice Chair. You have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you all for your presentation. It was very interesting. I just wanted to ask about what sort of renewable energy, methods of renewable energy have you managed to incorporate into some of the builds that you've shown on the presentation?
Yeah. So to date, we've had solar thermal and solar PV on roofs on various schemes. If I'm honest, the solar thermal has probably been the most efficient so far, but I think the PV, the technology is improving, and I think that will improve over time. We've also used air source heat pumps, and part of the solution that we're looking at the moment is perhaps a hybrid with an air source heat pump, and still at the moment a boiler, with the intention that the boiler would then be phased out over the period, again, as technology improves. Our passive houses that I spoke about use mechanical heat and ventilation systems with heat recovery. So essentially it's a whole environment recovery, and obviously as the nature of the scheme, passive means that the rest of the heat in the building, cooking, your body heat, everything else, you know, aids heating of the property.
Sorry, could I just follow up? Is there anything, have you got anything like, we're seeing a lot of projects coming forward now with water, reusing groundwater and things like that. I was just thinking about the Maelgwyn with your garden area there. Any plans for anything like that?
We have, I'll be honest, only one scheme that currently has harvesting on there. It was still quite costly to put in, which there's always a balance at the moment of capital cost with benefits, certainly when we're using public funding. And we did find that actually a lot of the time there wasn't sufficient grey water. It was actually filling from the main that also supplied the tank. So we've had mixed results with it at the moment, but nothing is off the table. You know, we're looking at all these, and as technologies improve, and certainly be looking at that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Michael Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for a great report. My question is to do with the projects and ongoing projects, to do with fibre connectivity to the actual units themselves, rather than fibre access to the development. So is that something we look to do, or is that something that has been done? Thank you.
Yeah, so new developments over a certain size, and I think pretty much all of the ones that I mentioned before, I actually get free fibre connection to the property and then routed into each of the properties. We're also having discussions at the moment of, can we go a step further? You know, could we actually provide web access within the units for tenants? Is there a way of rolling that out? There's also a pilot program that we're trying with through Vodafone, where we're looking at the Internet of Things and other basically access for some tenants in our sheltered blocks. You know, could they be using Alexa and various other Home Nest and various other things to help their life? So these are actually several projects that we're looking at the moment.
That's really interesting. You know, the advantages of some of these home connection, or these these Internet of Things, especially with when you become less able, they can be fantastic. You know, to making sure that you can have interconnected all sorts of appliances, making sure stuff is off when you leave properties and things like that, which can be really helpful. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Councillor Liz Roberts, I believe you've got a question.
Well, it's more of a thank you than a question, really. I just like to say thank you very much to you all from Cartrefi for giving us this presentation, and I'm always very impressed with your way in which you deliver from your company and your innovative projects that you come up with. But I just want to thank Sharon, really, for Karen Williams taking over now as the liaison officer of the Conway Valley Rail Partnership. And I'm really looking forward to the work that we can do together with creating enterprises. So I think from a Cartrefi perspective, it was a brilliant way of, how can I put it, community way of delivering to our communities rather than by a river, if I can say that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Ian, you're waving frantically there. I think you may have a question. Can you unmute Ian if you want to speak? Bob wants to ask a question as well, but Ian first. He's having trouble unmuting there.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go, Ian.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, diolch ar ofnadwy i chi. Ac hefyd diolch i chi yn Cartrefi. Mae gweld y cyflwyniad chi a'ch diweddariad chi yn codi hirall mawr ym mi o'r amser ges i ar y bwr yn Cartrefi amser maith yn ôl. Ond y cwestiwn sgyn i ydy mwy na tebyg i unai Dave Law neu Dave Gelshaw ynglŷn â o gynnach chi uned yn cael ei arddangos ar faes Eisteddfod Genedlaethol Conwy yma yn Dyffryn Conwy. Uned lle oeddech chi'n gallu rhoi bobl digartra ac tybed da chi faint o heini sgynnach chi sy'n cael ei defnyddio rwan. Ydy heini wedi dŵad i gael ei defnyddio sa di'n just dal yn cael ei arddangos felly a ddim cael ei ddefnyddio. Diolch.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ian. So the 8 that I discussed in Sefton Road are based on that unit that you saw at the Eisteddfod. They're a slightly different design because of the shape of the site that we used. It was a former garage site. So that's the first 8. We're also at the moment discussing a further 10 on another site, potentially in Old Colwyn, but it's part of a larger scheme. And then the one that you actually saw at the Eisteddfod, that's actually been used to extend a property, one of our existing properties, for a tenant and their family at the moment. So it's actually not just a sort of new build use, but we're looking, is this something we can use either temporarily or permanently into a garden of an existing property? So to answer the question, there's 8 built and there's more on the cards, and the other one you saw has been used, yes.
Diolch yn fawr, diolch Cadeirydd.
Councillor Bob Squire. You have to unmute, Bob.
It's playing up. That's better. I'm okay now. My question to Katie, I have one question in a second, but Chris Hughes beat me to it to thank Katie's predecessor, Gwyn Jones, because the service from Gwyn was excellent, and I mean that because he always responded very quickly. And I would like Katie to take back my thanks to Gwyn for all the work he did. And I know Katie has got a hard act to follow as a result of that, but up to now she's doing very, very well. And I must single her out for some praise. I know that when the plans came in for Myn Afon, I had great trepidation about what was going to happen and who was to be housed there. But it seems that it's going okay, Katie. So generally, I think my worries are being overcome because of the service you provide. And congratulations as well on the 39 million, because I think there must be other local authorities who are really envious of the progress that Chraffu have made, which has been excellent and done so much to bring up the standards in this area. I just have one question though, Katie, and that's basically that you're not losing in any way your stance or Chraffu's stance on priority for local connection. Obviously in the rural areas particularly, where we read regularly through the COVID, through COVID, that local people are not entirely happy with the numbers of people who are coming in to and can afford the bigger, more expensive properties. And obviously local people are very, very important to the sustainability of this area, of Conwy and North Wales in general. So my question, Katie, is really on your attitude or Chraffu's policy and stance on local connection. Could you just give me something on that, please?
Yes, of course. And thank you for the feedback on Myn Afon. I know we had a chat before it started and you were concerned. And I think we've worked together with the council, and we are pleased, and it's making an important difference for people. So we're really pleased with that. In terms of the allocations and the local connection, there has been no change to that. So when I talked about a temporary change in terms of homelessness, we Chraffu Conwy are part of a sort of sub-regional single access route to housing. We have a allocations policy shared. It's agreed by 3 council areas, and all the RSLs in those areas all follow the same policy. It makes it much simpler for our customers, because they only have to apply once, and then they're on a sort of shared list for all the associations. The local connection is still the 2 highest bands of a people with a local connection. That's not been weakened or loosened at all. And where we've given now priority to homeless households, those households will have been through Sam's team, who will have also carried out those checks under their sort of homeless duties. So again, that's not been changed. That priority is still for people with a local connection.
Thanks, Katie, because the standards from the presentation that was given, the standards within Cartrefi Properties is really superb. And I would imagine there'd be an awful lot of people from outside this area who would want to live in those sorts of properties. And that's why I worry a little bit about local people being accommodated first.
Yeah,
but
we do. I mean, the allocations for social housing does have to follow legislation, so we can't necessarily bar, but we have been able to we've been able to set a policy which gives that preference. And with such a high demand for housing and such a long list, to be in sort of the lower bands where you've got a lower connection, it would be unlikely anyway. But we do follow. It's compliant with housing legislation, how we've set our allocations.
Thank you very much, Katie, and very best wishes for the future.
And thank you very much for your comments, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Bob. Katie, I have a question or two for you. And I know you're new in post, middle of last year. And obviously you've heard the comments from our members, how they feel Cartrefi are doing and the social value that they bring to Conway. But I have to ask, for a not-for-profit company that was formed in 2008 to look after the housing and bring forward social housing for the residents of Conway, we gifted you 3,700 properties. On your website today, it says that you have around 4,000, but as you delve further in, it says 3,800. So I'm not quite sure what the actual figure is, but if it is that amount, which is what we gifted you back in 2008, that means that in the last 12 years, you possibly built 300 properties. That's 25 a year. Now, as a resident of Conway, I don't think that is a particularly good number. I've spoken to Sam Parry, who tells us that we have 1,169 households waiting for homes in Conway. 1,169 at the last count, and she reckons that number is higher today. Do you feel, as the managing director of Cartrefi, you may have lost focus as a not-for-profit social landlord? And will you be able to do better going forward now that you, as a professional lady, are at the helm?
Thank you for that question, Councillor. Absolutely not. I don't feel that we've lost that focus at all. I think what we've talked about today, I mean, I think on both your questions, the 39 million for the 1,000 new homes should be very reassuring in terms of the extra that we have done. I think partly for us, for David, Sharon and myself to come back, is almost to show you that apart from having those properties and looking after them and upgrading them and managing that stock and growing that stock, that as well as that, we have a subsidiary that is maintaining those properties, that is giving back that extra social value. I don't want to sit here and say that I'm going to change. I think and I know he's had some credit given to him, that the work that Gwyn and Andrew and the team have done in the past 12 years has been quite incredible to where we are. And then I think now we've got that next exciting future with the 39 million, the subsidiary, the modular homes. There's lots of exciting next steps to go to, but I think the team, and David might want to come in as, it's easy for me to say I haven't, but David might want to come in as having been there, but the work that we've done in terms of WHQS and managing that stock and the new properties, it has been impressive in my opinion. David, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think just really to pick up on that, and Chair, when you quote 12 years, the first 6 years of that 12 really was about bringing the stock up to a standard. And Chraffu is still committed to our current tenants in our current stock, and we'll never let that standard slip. So that's where our focus, we felt, was the priority in those early years. Then the team then changed. I actually joined in 2015, and really that's when we started developing in earnest with a small team, building on our own land assets that had come over with the housing portfolio as part of the stock transfer, and basically growing a team around that. And I'll be honest, I'm proud to now be delivering 75 this year. I think that's a big increase from where that starting point from the very beginning. And to answer your question on the numbers, we've actually just tipped over the 4,000 now. So
that's good news. 75 to the 1,169 households that are waiting for accommodation. It's a small number and a mammoth task. And really, you know, what I want to know is how can we help you help our residents, because there's a lot of people out there that need our help, need your help. Anyway, we've got Councillor Gronwy Edwards, Cabinet Member and Deputy Leader of Conwy County Borough Council, who got his hand up. So, Gronwy.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't intended speaking. I heard your last comments. Certainly, I remember going back to the days of stock transfer and the long debates we had and all the consultation we went through, and there were doubters then that we were doing the wrong thing and we should keep the council houses in-house. But certainly I think it's been a real success. The quality of the property that we now give our tenants is second to none, in my opinion. And I would like to congratulate Chraffu on the success and the quality of housing they've achieved for us so far. And working together, I think we can carry on doing likewise. So thank you for your presentation. Well done, and upward and onward, in my opinion.
Okay. Councillor Charlie McCoubrey, you've got your hand up as well, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just very quickly, obviously, right to buy only ended in 2019, so houses were leaving the social sector. You know, the original, it was way before my time, given that I'm such a young councillor. But the reason the transfer was mostly to do with bringing them up to Welsh Government standards. Chraffu had achieved that by 2014. There are 50% of houses in Wrexham Authority. 6,000 houses still aren't up to Welsh Government standards, and a third of the houses in Flintshire aren't up to Welsh Government standards. So whilst, you know, I'm absolutely passionate about seeing more houses built, I think we can really rest assured that our tenants, or Chraffu's tenants, are living in houses of a really high standard. So that, you know, it's just as important. We don't want people living in slums. We want them well looked after. But, you know, I know where you're coming from, because we all want the same thing. 1,100 people on a waiting list is way too many. So, you know, it is about partnership, it's about pushing forward. But I think the figures, just the bare figures of numbers, don't really give the full facts here.
Well, thank you, Councillor. Absolutely, and we're here and open to, you know, when you say what can you do for us, what can we do for you, we're here and open to work on that together.
Yeah, it's a big task, and I don't envy you, Katie, but there we go. Thank you very much for your presentation, to yourself, to David, and shoot the lady, Sharon, was it? Sharon. Yeah, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you probably next year for another update. Carry on the good work. It's greatly appreciated, as you heard the comments before.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So, members, we'll now move on to item 10, which is to receive a petition on behalf of local residents and car park users regarding the resurfacing of Watling Street car park, Llanrwst. And this is going to be presented by Councillor Aaron.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadeirydd. Dwi'n dod ar deiseb yma ger eich bron heddiw yma ar ran trigolion Llanrwst, a rheini sydd yn teithio i Llanrwst am ei gwaith. Mae'r deiseb yn syml iawn yn galw ar Cyngor Conwy i ailwynebu maes parcio Watling Street yma yn Llanrwst. Mae'r deiseb wedi derbyn 147 o lofnodion, gyda 124 o'r rheini yn byw yn Llanrwst neu o fewn Sir Conwy. I rheini ohonoch chi sydd ddim yn gyfarwydd hefo'r maes parcio yma, mae hi wrth pwll nofio Llanrwst, a mae hi wrth Canolfan Cymunedol Llanrwst hefyd. Mae ysgol gynradd Bro Gwydyr yn agos iawn. Mae hi'n faes parcio pay and display, a mae yna doiledau cyhoeddus yna hefyd. Felly, mae hi'n faes parcio prysur iawn reit yn ganol dre Llanrwst. Yn anffodus, mae hi'n faes parcio peryglus iawn hefyd. Mae'r maes parcio fewn llanast, mae yna lot o potholes. So ni'n deud bod y potholes digon fawr i lenwi y pwll nofio gyferbyn ar maes parcio. Y brif bryder sydd gyda i ydy diogelwch. A hynny yw diogelwch plant ysgol Bro Gwydyr. Gan bod gyrwyr yn gorfod sbiad allan am potholes, dydyn nhw ddim pob amser yn sbiad allan am blant ysgol cynradd. A mae yna ormod o lawer o close calls wedi bod yn ddiweddar. A yn sgil Covid-19, mae defnydd o'r maes parcio yma at ddiben yr ysgol wedi codi'n sylweddol iawn. So mae hynny'n golygu mwy o geir, a mae hynny'n golygu mwy o blant hefyd. So dyna ydy'r deiseb. Dwi'n cyflwyno hynny felly i'r Pwyllgor. Da ni'n galw felly bod y maes parcio yn cael ei ailwynebu, bod y parking bays yn cael ei ailbeintio, a bod ni'n cael gwneud yn siŵr bod y maes parcio yma yn un diogel. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
No, thank you, Aaron, for raising this issue and getting the petition together. I'm sure our officers will look at it and keep up the good work, Aaron. You're a star. Thank you.
I think Councillor Chris Hughes and Councillor Harry Saville want to come in, Chair.
Sorry, yes, I'm missing them. Councillor Chris Hughes.
Thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Jenks will recall this issue came up about 3 years ago at the then I don't know whether it still exists, but it was a Llanrwst regeneration group meeting, and there were some roadworks supposed to be happening, some resurfacing of roads happening just outside of Llanrwst, and the conversation then was about using the scrapings that were lifted when they resurfaced the A470 to use that to resurface the Watling Street car park. Did they not do that? Well, I'm guessing they obviously didn't, but that was discussed 3 years ago, and I was under the impression that that's what they were going to, that ERF had indicated they were going to do.
I haven't got an answer for you there, Christopher.
I think Councillor Jenks might remember, but if that's, I'm just making the point, Chair, that it's, if that didn't happen, then questions should be asked why, because it would have been a really cheap way of resolving the residents' issues, and it is a normal practice in many cases to use scrapings from resurfacing of one road to make repairs to car parks and resurface them.
I'm not sure about that, Christopher, but anyway, Councillor Ian's waving his fingers there in front of the screen. Come on in, Ian.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd. Wel, diolch I Chris am godi hwn hefyd. A dwi'n siŵr bod Cynghorydd Bob Squires yn cofio tua 10 mlynedd yn ôl pen oedden ni'n cael cyfarfodydd yn Llanrwst, ac oedd Bob hefo ni, ac oedd yr adeg hynny yn poeni am gyflwr y car park. So mae wedi bod yn y cyflwr yma ers rai, wel, dros 10-12 mlynedd, a da ni wedi bod yn cnocio hwylion I mewn I ben a swyddogion I drio cael sylw. Ac chwarae teg I Aaron, mae o wedi dechrau eto ar yr un siwrna. Mae bob lwc iddo fo, ond gobeithio fedrwn ni gael rhyw fath o ymateb I deiseb mae Aaron wedi gynnig.
I'm sure it'll go to Councillor Greg, the Cabinet member, first, and then on to ERF, so hopefully they'll address the issues for you. But thanks again, Aaron, for your story.
Councillor Harry wants to come in, I think.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Councillor Harry.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got a little bit to say about this. I know I'll go on a bit, but I'll promise to be as to the point as possible. Right. In my ward, we have Marine Drive, which goes around the Great Orme, which Marine Drive is managed by parking services. I think probably the best way of describing it is it's a very, very long, thin car park that goes around Great Orme that people drive around rather than parking on. Now, Louise, Emery and I met with officers late last year and made inquiries about having part of that resurfaced, and I think we're quite surprised by the response, which was due to the cost of resurfacing part of Marine Drive, and I'm assuming there'll be a similar problem with car parks. Effectively, parking services don't have the capital, the revenue funding to do that, so they need to put in a capital business case. Obviously, before capital business case can come to us as members, we need to have some idea of how much it'll cost. When parking services approach their contractor, the contractor won't quote until parking services can tell them what the budget is. And obviously parking services wouldn't have a budget until they submit a business case and we allocate a budget. So you can see there's a problem there. How on earth do you begin to actually employ a contractor to come and carry out the work? Now, Louise and I raised this at the local area forum North, and it really surprised Philip and Ronnie, who I've got an awful lot of time for what they both say, as they've been members of.
Councillor Harry, what's this got to do with Aaron's petition?
Okay, right, I'll cut to the chase. Aaron wants his car park resurfacing. How are we going to do it? Because as far as I'm aware, at the moment, we can't get a contractor to resurface a car park. The other problem is, and this has been raised in our local area forum, there seems to be some confusion amongst members as to who actually funds car park maintenance in Conway. Is it highways or parking services? Now, in our area forum, we have asked for ERF and audit to come and explain this to us at some point in the future. I was going to suggest if this is a problem which the public feels strongly about, maybe this committee should be having ERF and audit come and explain, rather than it be dealt with by an area forum. So that's the problem in my mind. How, officers go look at it. How are officers going to go and get a figure to bring to us as members for a business case if the contractor won't quote to begin with? And the second question is, what's the uncertainty over how it's funded? I mean, I can see we're shrugging our shoulders, that's fine. Shrugging our shoulders isn't going to get Aaron's car park dealt with, is it?
Chair,
and I think we need to do more than just have the petition. I think we need to actually try and deliver something for them.
I think we're surmising here rather than, Harry, it's not for us to say whether we've got the budget to do the car park or not. I think the responsible thing for us to do is to accept the petition, forward that on to ERF. They have a responsibility to maintain the car parks and make sure that they are safe for the public. So I think that's what we shall be doing. Dawn, did you want to come in there, Dawn?
No, that's fine. I just, that's what I was going to say. Perhaps refer the petition to ERF. I mean, you can ask for a report if need be, a more generic report, maybe, Harry, for the committee regarding car parks in general.
Well, that was where I was going to end up before I was asked to get to the point. I mean, I thought that was blindingly obvious. We've got a problem potentially of funding car parks. An explanation from officers would be helpful.
Well, we had a repair done in our car park in Kimble Bay, or one of our car parks, fairly recently, Harry. So, to be honest, if there was a safety issue and it was addressed, and the resurfacing was done in the area where the issue was. So, I don't know how that relates to your Marine Drive, but I don't think it's for us to debate.
Okay, that's fine.
But thank you for that anyway.
Councillor Nigel, Councillor Phil Capper's got his hand up.
Councillor Philip.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would propose that we ask ERF to provide us with a report whilst accepting the petition and addressing the issues that Councillor Harry's raised.
Okay. And a seconder, Harry?
I'll second it.
I was going to second that. Okay.
So if members are happy for that, please show by raising your hand. I think that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I'm sorry, I can't find my virtual hand, and it's Jane speaking.
It's okay, it's fine.
Could I just ask, I think it's really important that members get a report on this matter. Could I just need to explore with the team how quickly that report can come forward? The team overseeing this area of work are under enormous strain at the moment. Combination of what's happening with the weather and a couple of key people having left the team means that they're a bit thinly spread. So definitely want to bring the report. Will members be understanding if it might not come to the next meeting? It may just take a little longer than perhaps you would normally expect a report to come back.
I think we're all mindful of the fact that we are under extreme pressures in all departments due to the pandemic, and the fact that we've lost some ERF staff as well. But as long as that report does come forward within a reasonable time, I'm sure Councillor Harry and Philip Capper will be quite happy. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, so there we go, Aaron. Hope that's all done and dusted for you, sir. We will move on, which is item 11, is to consider a report from the Head of Environment and Road and Facilities on the following matter, which is the Bus Emergency Scheme, or BES. Requested to all councillors to sign up to the BES 2 scheme, and we have Garrett Edwards, Head of ERF, and Andrew Dawson, the Transport Manager, to present this item. Andrew, are you coming first?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just getting used to Zoom.
Oh, there we are. Good evening.
Thank you. So, in essence, this report relates to the Bus Emergency Scheme version 2 and the funding associated with it. I think it's important at the start, I should say this exact report has been issued to every local authority in Wales by the Welsh Government. So they asked us to translate it across word for word. So basically we've all had the same information. The aim of that, of course, being it goes through each authority's democratic process individually, obviously, of course. To go on to the report itself, the background of the report identifies the impact the COVID virus has had, exclusively in this case in terms of the bus industry since the outbreak last year. Since the outbreak, numbers have greatly reduced, both in terms of paying passengers and also concessionary passengers, to the point where effectively services aren't commercially viable anymore. That's had a huge impact upon operators across the whole country, to the point where really it wasn't viable for them to continue in the long term. It was probably clear as early as probably April of last year there'd be a significant impact on the operators and their ability to keep up with their operations. Due to that, funding was guaranteed by both ourselves, the local authorities, and the Welsh Government for an initial period, just to maintain services as best we could. This funding was for the periods of April, May and June, and it was based on the funding from the previous year in 2019. So that went out to the operators, but I think once it became clear this wasn't obviously a short-term issue, the original Bus Emergency Scheme version 1 was introduced. So that was put in place early July last year, shortly after it was looking like this wasn't real pandemic. So in terms of that, operators were essentially given some financial certainty in exchange for agreeing to granted access to more data. They gave us access to their accounts, or more specifically Welsh Government to their accounts, in order to verify their figures. As the year moved on and restrictions eased later in the summer, version 1.5 of the scheme came into effect. This was in order to help ramp services back up to increase demand. I think that was quite a difficult period. There's been a lot of work done regionally across North Wales between the various local authorities to try and ensure services have continued, especially to make sure they operate as best they can, taking into consideration the restrictions at the current time. I'll be honest, it has been a bit of a balancing act between providing transport to those residents for essential services and at the same time trying to ensure we aren't just running empty buses. Or one of the more recent issues has been to try and attract people coming into the county with the restrictions in place. So it has sort of been a bit of a roller coaster ride in terms of trying to taper that across the region. But yeah, we've had a lot of meetings, and I think we've managed to get an okay balance. That in turn now brings us on to version 2 of the bus emergency scheme, which is the thing we are now being asked to sign up to. In essence, it's a continuation of the current scheme, which will again provide some certainty to operators for the foreseen future. I think the key feature of this agreement is getting all parties to sign up to it, but in particular the operators. In terms of the operators signing up to it, it will enable the public sector, in whatever form that takes moving forward, to have more of a say on the delivery of the commercial network, which is something I would say we've probably never had before. That's both in terms of the individual routes that operate, the ticketing of the routes, and also integrating with rail services. As you go through the report, you can see in section 2, the main recommendation is to obviously agree to the continuation of this financial help, but also in 2.2, there's a call for a report into the shaping of the future of bus services in Wales. I think initially that was probably all going to be linked into one report, but obviously 2.2 is potentially more contentious and will take a lot more, I think, detailed looking into. That obviously will depend how services are delivered in the future and whether they be done nationally, regionally, locally. Going back to the scheme itself, in terms of the financial help, that will realistically carry on till the 31st of July 2022, by which time, being optimistic, operations may actually return more normality, or perhaps more likely, a future way of working will have been decided upon through the report I just mentioned. I think importantly, point 3.9 of the report goes on to outline the fact there will be that future report, but by agreeing to the principle of the funding, which is 2.1, you're not signing up to any binding agreement in terms of the report. So whilst the two issues are linked, they're being kept separate in order to get the short-term funding issue resolved. I've also outlined in 11.1, there is a theoretical risk that operators mightn't sign up to the agreement, as obviously they want control of the commercial network ultimately. However, realistically, I think it's fair to say, based on current numbers, there isn't probably an operation in North Wales that's currently commercially viable. Passenger numbers are that low, to be honest. I don't think any route would be viable. I should also add, due to the, obviously this was a quick turnaround in terms of the report, so the comments couldn't all come in. So I have asked Councillor Evans, whose comment is in the report, and Councillor Robbins, who unfortunately I couldn't get into the report in time, but he has asked for his comment tonight to be included. That comment is: the support of this scheme is vital to support public transport operators in the future. The extreme circumstances they faced have only been mitigated by the support received, and this scheme leads that forward. Yeah, so in essence, that is the outline of the report. Obviously, I'm happy to take any questions on it, but it's important to note that the two recommendations have been separated out. So by agreeing to the future financial certainty, we aren't agreeing to any future agreement. And that's it, to be honest.
All right, thank you very much for that, Andrew. Councillor Michael Smith, you've got your hand up. You have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thank you for that, Andrew. From reading the report today, I can't see an alternative to agreeing to this. You know, as the report mentions, the local authority has the responsibility to have a bus service running. With that bus service being Arriva here and using the, you know, running through Wales, and mainly, you know, our neighbouring authorities, I would assume that they're going to sign up to this too. The funding is coming from Welsh Government. And although, you know, that one of your risks, as you mentioned, is that they may not sign up to it, they do have the opportunity to make a very small profit if they can do, of just 2%. And I think that's fair for free money to keep them going during this time. So I would support it, and I propose that we do go ahead and support this. I think it's called Bus Emergency Scheme, or BES 2. So that's my proposal, and I hope somebody will second that and get this one moved. Thank you.
Just for clarification, does that include the second recommendation, which is to call for a further report on the bus reform proposals relating to future management of the bus service in Wales?
Yeah, I would assume that at a later date we would need to see a you know, a revised report, and you know, this is going to be ever changing. Really, we don't know how long this is going to be, how long we're going to be in lockdown. So yeah, we would want to see a second report at a later point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harry Saville.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question was, when that second report comes, could we have some more details on the consultation that's been undertaken with bus operators? I mean, it says in the report that consultation has been undertaken with them. That's fine. I know within the local bus sector, whilst they've been really grateful for the support they've had from Welsh Government, they have had some concerns about the pace at which it was delivered. So it would be useful if we could have that information from them. Otherwise, I'm happy to second Michael's proposal.
Thank you very much, Harry. Do we have any other speakers on this item? No. Okay. So Jane, if you're there, can you? Oh, sorry, Councillor John Roberts. If you want to.
No, Chair. I anticipated you were going to ask for a vote.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Me to anticipate.
Yeah, well, I think Jane's got to call out the names.
Okay.
Yes, members, because this report will go on to Cabinet shortly. So I will read out your names, and if you can indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Carol Beard.
For.
Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Jeff Corrie.
For.
Councillor Sam Cotton.
For.
Councillor Keith Eales.
For.
Councillor Pat Hebron, I don't believe is in the meeting this evening. Councillor Chris Hughes.
For.
Councillor Ian Jenkins. Councillor Ian Jenkins.
He's left.
He must have left. Okay, thank you. Councillor Abdul Khan. Councillor Abdul. No. Okay. Councillor Don Milne.
For.
Thank you. Councillor John Roberts.
Obliged.
Councillor Harry Saville.
For.
Councillor Michael Smith.
For.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Obliged.
Councillor Bob Squire.
For.
Councillor Joan Vaughan. Councillor Joan. No, she's left as well. Councillor Aaron Wynne.
Obliged.
Okay, thank you, members. I'll just let you know the numbers to be clear. That's 13 in favour. That's carried.
Yeah, so I can confirm that has been carried, and the report will be presented to Cabinet on the 26th of January. Okay, members, we'll move on to item 12, which is to consider a report by the Head of the Economy and Culture on the following matter: the Active and Creative Lifestyles, or ACL, 2019 to 2020. And we have Mally Tidswell with us, Principal Leisure Manager, who's going to present this report. Good evening, Mally.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. For those who've read the report and obviously been involved in recent meetings with us as Leisure, will be aware that this report is for 1920 financial year, so it's the fourth last financial year. So this report is a little bit late coming to you. For those of you who don't know, Conway's Leisure Service, as it's now known, ACL, Active Creative Lifestyles, as was is based on 3 sections. You've got indoor leisure, leisure development, and a small training section. So this report reviews what's actually happened over the last financial year. Coming into the 1920 financial year, ACL as it was tasked with becoming more commercial with its fitness offer to drive more income through the business. So as part of that that task, we've restructured during 1920 with the creation of a fitness development manager post and some area managers posts to cover the locality plan of north, east, southwest, and the central area, which is Arius. As part of the years in the report, it explains that we've invested 1.1 million into the service, and this is a mixture of gym equipment and gym improvements at Llandudno Swim Centre, Llandudno Junction Leisure Centre, Colwyn Leisure Centre, and the barn at Arius. We've also provided a new 3G pitch with Sodexo at Dyffryn Conway Leisure Centre. We've also provided some new boilers at the swimming pool in Llanrwst. And during that year, we also did a reception transformation in Abergele. So lots of work happened across the whole estate during that financial year. And it's worth noting as well, obviously, at the end of 1920, we went into lockdown, but the investments into our gym facilities saw our gym membership be the highest that it's ever been, at just shy of 5,000 members, which was a record. Also within the leisure services department, obviously we've got leisure development, and it's quite astounding when you think that at the time there were 4 members of staff who delivered a range of activities at leisure centres, in local schools across the whole county, really, for the wealth and health and well-being of the community. Things like bikeability, weightlifting, e-biking. There's a rural fitness program that complements the fitness program in our leisure centres. There's inclusion work that happens. There's outdoor activities, because obviously we're on the border, right in Snowdonia. We've got sea one side, Snowdonia the other. You know, we've got a wealth of outdoor facilities available to us, and obviously the team do quite a lot of work in that area. They also provide events. So there's the annual sports awards, unfortunately, which didn't happen this year. They do sports days for schools, competitions, bowling festivals. They provide an annual Olympic and Paralympic day for the primary schools within the locality. And this is legacy from the 2012 Olympics, which is still carrying on within our county, which is huge for driving sport into the schools and showing what our primary school pupils can achieve. Also within leisure development, we've got Sport Conway, and these provide support to local clubs within Conway. We've got the Stopwatch publication that provides really, really good information on what clubs are doing, what funding for clubs is available, what grants is available for clubs. It's really well documented over the years of all the clubs who have been supported by this publication, obviously by the department itself. Moving on to the training department. This is basically one individual who works within our service, who has 1 or 2 casual members of staff to support her delivering some of our training. So our training helps to support the corporate induction. We do manual handling and first aid training for the council and for external bodies. We also provide in-house training for our staff, our lifeguards, to do the National Pool Lifeguard qualification and the Royal Lifesaving Society assessments for our lifeguards. We also have provided apprenticeships and a vast amount of other training for our staff throughout the year. Further on in the report, it goes on to state that within our performance indicators, our total attendances were up. Some of the other smaller attendances were slightly down, but overall we were up on our attendances of the previous year, which always is positive due to the fact that obviously we were closed for the last 10 days of the month, the last 10 days of the year due to the COVID restrictions. Within the next section, the financial position, we closed slightly overspent on the financial year, but we managed to close the accounts based on financial support from Community Development Service as was, so there's no extra cost to Conway County Borough Council. projects that we completed in 1920, like I said, we've invested massively into our service. We've started to invest in technology, which we're currently developing throughout this financial year through the pandemic. And we've obviously created lots of opportunity for customers online and delivering lots of support to Conway Council generally through the pandemic. Over the last 10 days of that financial year, we've managed to repurpose our staff to support community development service to deliver the community support scheme. We repurposed our buildings into supporting the NHS for red hubs. We had staff working ERF on recycling. So we managed to do a lot within that financial year. Lots and lots of opportunities for our staff to see different positions and really support the council in time of need. Brief overview, whistle-stop tour of everything that we've done. Obviously, it's more in depth in the report. So I would like to open up for questions now, if that's okay.
Yep, thank you very much, Mally. And the hands have gone up. So we've got Donald Milne, who's a guest, but he's got his hand up first. So Don.
No, I'm not a guest. I'm here. At least I voted on the last one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mally, for the report. A lot of detail in there. Can I just ask? I've got a few questions and queries. In particular, page 199. I'm going to come back to the first item. We've got 3 items listed there. The repair and maintenance question clearly is a major concern to you. But there's a couple of other minor points you raised at the bottom of page 199. Staff sickness. You say, was this because it was greater than expected? And if so, was any particular reasons, any accidents or long-term sickness problems? And the mention of COVID losses, obviously this is only to the beginning of the COVID crisis. Were we able to claim for any of the loss of income through any of the COVID claim funds? And was this able to offset some of that? And just going over onto the following page, at the top of the following page, there's a reference to the Wales Audit Office review. This, to my knowledge, was on the agenda for the Audit and Governance Committee. I don't think it's been presented. So could I ask you that that is actually circulated to members probably of this committee as well as probably Audit and Governance?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've got a couple of other questions. If you'd like to answer those first.
Yeah, if I can, that's fine. So in terms of the reasons for the overspend in year, obviously the repair and maintenance issues, we have got an aging building stock. As most people will probably be aware, we are starting to tackle that now. So obviously in this current financial year, we will balance our budgets. We are starting to tackle that. We have been claiming loss of income through the Welsh Government, so we're comfortable that we will balance this year. In terms of the staff sickness, there were a couple of episodes of long-term sick that were unforeseeable. And whilst we're talking about a department that potentially has 250 members of staff, the majority of them are casual or part-time. So the two main cases of long-term staff sick were to full-time staff. These have now been managed. It's been dealt with. So that's not an issue for this financial year.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, can I just look a little bit more at the problems that you've had? Yes, you've had a long-term maintenance backlog, and clearly you've put proposals that have gone through F&R and Cabinet that are to address that. But in the meantime, have you got plans in place to ensure that we don't get in that kind of situation again? In other words, have we got the revenue there for ongoing maintenance of other items, not the backlog, but the future ones that will develop? And one thing that sort of crosses my mind on that one is things like you mentioned the new 3G pitch. Well, we've got a number of 3G pitches around the county. I forget the number, but I'm sure you can tell me. And And do we have in place a replacement policy for those? Because I think they only have a limited lifespan and they need a lot of not just routine maintenance, which I presume is in the budget, but also a replacement budget at some time in the near future. Because clearly the kind of shortfalls we've had recently need to be avoided in the future. So thanks. Could you go through a bit of that for me, please,
Yes,
Sally?
sure. So obviously we've just had approval to start tackling the aging building stock issues through our repair and maintenance, working with facilities management, and that will tackle probably about 750,000 to £1 million worth of backlog of a total of 2.5 million. We have placed in a capital bid to tackle the rest of the 2.5 million. So we're waiting to see if we're successful with that. Longer term, we are looking to ensure that our revenue repair and maintenance budget is larger than it currently is. I'm also looking at a strategic plan for the future of our buildings, because like you said, it's something that we need to have a handle on. It's something that we're looking at now with our area managers, and obviously it'll be something that we bring to these committees for approval, based on the need to secure leisure's future, and because I'm a firm believer of when we do come out of the COVID crisis, Conway are going to need our service to help people to be fit and healthy and well, to deal with the aftermath of this pandemic.
Thank you very much for that answer on that one. Could you just clarify, we're looking at, you said 2.5 million or so backlog expenditure. That is going to be covered by the funding, the revenue funding that you've been promised to some extent. Over what period of time will that, I think it's what, 100,000 a year or so, over what period of time will that actually take? And effectively what therefore with the interest will be the total cost of all that?
So because there are lots of many different types of work, the repayments are commensurate with the type of work involved. So certain things like roofs and walls, etc., they'll be repaid back over, and the skins of building will be paid back over 40 years, which is the maximum. The remainder will be paid either over 25 years or 10 years for specialist equipment that has a lower shelf life, and a lower working life. So the longest that will be 40 years.
Right, and you have the authorisation then for that, was it 99,500 or so for 40 years cover?
Yes, so initially what we've proposed is 735,000, which is about 53,000 a year. The remainder of that is to be kept for contingency and for fees. Obviously, a lot of the condition surveys are being visual, so we've got to keep a contingency in case, as it's revealed, as with most buildings, etc., things can get worse. So we've erred on the side of caution because it's the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we're looking around about 4 million over the years involved. That's great. Thanks for your.
Oh, thank you, Don. Thanks for your questions. Do we have anybody else that wishes to speak? I haven't got any hands.
Councillor Harry Saville.
Harry?
Get Carol Beard as well.
Chairman, look, it's a question for Mally. If you go to page 189, and you've got the Conway Excellence Fund there, and it says, so this is in 2019-20, you paid out £20,150 worth of grants. Is that the total for the Excellence Fund?
That is the total, yes. Obviously, sorry.
No, go on. You were.
Obviously, that's not the full grant allocation. The full grant allocation that we have is 29,000 for the year.
But that's the total you paid out.
Yes, yeah.
29. Okay, look, the reason I ask about this is we had a report that came to Democratic Services in September 2018, where we looked at the administration of this fund. At the time, in 2017-18, there was a just shy of £5,000 underspend on that fund. assurances were given to members at the time that the fund would be fully utilised. 2 years later, it seems the underspend has doubled. Now, what I'm wondering is, would it be worthwhile if we had a report come to either this committee or Finance and Resources, if it followed on from that September 2018 report, that actually showed what progress had been made on the actions that were discussed back in 2018, and if we actually had a, I don't know, breakdown of financial outturn for the fund for the last 10 or so years. I mean, when we discussed this in 2018, there was a £60,000, no, sorry, I lied, £35,000 reserve that had built up as a result of underspends from the Excellence Fund. And considering money is tight for local authorities, I think it'd be useful to know what that funding is doing and whether or not that reserve can be released, or whether or not we can revisit that. So I'd like to propose that we have a report of that nature come to either this committee or Finance and Resources, say within the next 6 months.
Can I just sort of my limited understanding of the fund? Obviously, it's normally managed through Caroline Jones, who's our lead leisure development officer, but the actual financial support that's in place is not just for sport. It's in place for arts and education as well, but the majority of it, about 80%, comes in from sports applicants, and obviously that provides a wide range across a lot of areas for the excellent young people that we have in all of those areas. I think to date, it's over 500,000 that's been given out to local athletes, artists, people who have applied for this. So, you know, it's done quite a lot of good within Conway, and it's allowed a lot of people to try and I suppose achieve their ambitions. I think, you know, I'm more than happy to do the report. I just think that, you know, we are, you know, even though our sites are closed, we are flat out. So yeah, a 6 months timeline on that would be useful to us. You know, as soon as we can get it ready, we will get it ready for you to see. I do think that it does a lot of good. And again, if there's more we can do with sort of the arts people within Conway, then I'm sure we can get more applicants to it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll take those points. I mean, as I've said, I'll propose report within 6 months.
Yeah.
If that's doable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, Harry, because it's not an underspend, it's an undergiving, isn't it? Because they're all people applying for grants to further their development in the arts or sports. But yeah, a report going forward would be good.
Sorry, Chair, just another point as well to note, obviously, because we're in a COVID year, naturally the applicants are going to be less because there hasn't been any sport that's been happening. We have had 2 applicants recently, but other than that, that I'm aware of, it's just a difficult time at the minute. I think that will be noted within the report.
Yeah, if I can just go back to that, I mean, I totally take on board that obviously you won't have given out as many grants over the last 12 months due to COVID, but the point is, there was this, I like Nigel's term, undergiving. There was this significant undergiving that appeared to happen year on year up until 2017-18. This concerned members of democratic services. Assurances were given, admittedly not by officers, by the working group, that a marketing campaign and some admin changes would be made to get the entire fund utilised, and yet 2 years later, that underspend had almost doubled. That doesn't fill me with any sort of confidence that this marketing campaign and these changes actually work. So I think it'd be good if we just saw what had actually been done to get this money out to the people that, you know, really benefit from it.
Yeah, no problem.
I think it needs looking at, Harry, because if you only had 1 applicant, we'd be giving them a rather large amount of money. So that, you know, but it does definitely need looking at, and it'd be good to see a report coming forward. Any other comments on that, members? Would you be happy for a report coming forward? Please show, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Councillor Chris.
I think Councillor Chris and Councillor Anne would like to come in, Nigel.
Yeah. I hear Harry's comment, but he will, I'm not sure if he was a member of the Education Scrutiny Committee, but he'll recall that I was the lone voice objecting to the ending of the music service that we run, which led to the, I believe, a member of staff leaving us. That was the member of staff within the education service, Julie Meehan, who was responsible for the arts element of the grant that we're talking about. I don't know whether Julie was replaced or whether that work was handed over to somebody else, but it was inevitable. I made the point at the time that we were talking of this happened not that long after the Excellence Fund had met and there'd been an underspend that was reported back to scrutiny. And we were discussing this at the time because I raised the issue that if we were losing we had to recognise that a member of staff often have not just one role but several roles. In Julie's case, she did have more than one role, but because we looked at ending that music service, the role which Julie undertook within the arts element of excellence, because she led the youth music groups and she was responsible for the music youth orchestra and the big band concept that we had some at the time. And so I think enough that I'm not sure whether that work was replaced, and it'd be useful if we could have that information as well, because if it hasn't been, then clearly that's the rationale for the underspend.
Possibly, but thank you for your comments, Christopher. Councillor Anne McCaffrey.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for allowing me to speak. My question probably is more for Jane, to be honest with you, rather than Mally. I think it would be unfair to ask it of Mally. And Jane, it's a combination of the sort of information that's on page 199 and 200. On 199, it tells us that the leisure service overspent by a third, 33%, so by 2 million out of just under a £6 million budget. And in that same year, that's when the Welsh Audit Office came in and did a review of leisure. And their conclusion was that whilst the council had positively considered the Sustainable Development Principle and had a clear vision for leisure, the lack of a clear financial model impacts on the long-term sustainability of the service. And it's that issue. I mean, if we were 2 million overspent of a 6 million budget in that particular year, I know we were bailed out by CDS elsewhere, but it's the financial sustainability, long-term sustainability in terms of the model. So I don't know what work, if any, has been done in terms of coming up with a clear financial model so that long-term sustainability of the service is strong. And I wonder if Jane could just provide some insight into that, and perhaps depending on what she says, it may well be something that we might want to come back to this committee with a report, or indeed to Finance and Resources, where I am a member. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Councillor Anna. I really welcome that very important question. It's a bit strange actually reading and listening to a debate on this report, because it feels like quite ancient history, the 2019-20 report, to be fair. I think Mally and I would be the first to say that we never wanted to come back to members with a spending situation as you've just described. It was, that's not the kind of leisure service that we want to be running. So we've put in a whole programme of work since that time, which has been around turning around the leisure service and making it very, very commercial in focus. Now, that doesn't mean we're not still delivering on the wellbeing agenda. That is at the heart of everything that we do in leisure, and it's core in particular to the work that Caroline Jones and her team do with their outreach work on disability, sport, outdoors engagement, etc. But Mally's been leading this work alongside a colleague called Paul Francis, which has been looking at the actual financial model of our fitness offer, where we can grow it, how we can maximise the profitability of it. So we've done a lot of data analysis, understanding where the growth opportunities are. So, for example, even data that's coming out quite recently around a big upsurge in demand for classes as opposed to just single gym membership, etc. So we're tracking data, we're surveying members, we're really digging deep into the information we've got around our membership base, and through that we've been using that data to inform everything from the way in which we refurb the gyms. So the recent investment into Llandudno Junction is an example of that, because Llandudno Junction showed it had the most capacity for new growth, new membership opportunities. So we prioritise that because we could get a return on it. Similarly, there's been a whole programme around looking at increasing loyalty with the membership, because we made it too easy for people to come out of their membership. We've put all sorts of interventions in place that we understood at which point people were starting to drop out of their membership, and so we put interventions in to keep people going, to increase their motivation, and all sorts of programs that made people move through stages and stick with us. Another piece of work has been a customer service piece, which I know you're always very passionate about, Councillor Anne, so that people felt welcomed, known, and we've been doing mystery shopping of our whole customer experience leisure centres. So over the past 18 months, and in the time when we still had the CDS, I would say this has probably been the biggest area of work within that service. Huge focus, which has been accelerated while we've been in lockdown. So Mally just referred then to the fact that it might be tricky to bring a report sooner than 6 months because the team are so busy. They are working flat out behind the scenes to be able to reopen with a completely revamped, reinvigorated leisure offer. We're rebranding it. The buildings will look different. The staff kit is going to look different. The membership kind of collateral is going to look different. We are coming out really strong with a commercial mindset to how we run these leisure facilities, underpinned by well-being, but with an absolute hunger that we will not come to you again with an overspend of that kind if we can possibly help it. Be very happy when time allows to update members a bit more on that, and it's the kind of stuff you're going to see when you see the following year report, because that's what the team have been working on. But I'm really excited about it. Councillor Louise has been right in the heart of it, driving it, and we've got a team who are very focused on making this service work from a financial perspective.
That's reassuring, Jane, because obviously I do appreciate this is quite an historic report, and patently it doesn't put this service in a good light in some respects, and I say that respectfully rather than sort of critically, really. So I think it will be interesting to see, despite COVID, which obviously gets in the way and corrupts things, just where the long-term financial sustainability is planned to deliver, really, and how it actually works. But thanks for that feedback. It was really useful.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Well, members, we did have a proposal, I think, from Harry Saville.
Excuse me, Chair, I did have my hand up.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. I think Jane's really touched on what I was going to ask, and it was on the commercial approach, really, and it was in particular on the sponsorship and advertising and commercial revenue opportunities and partnerships, really, and to see what you've got planned and in place going forward, really. But I think Jane's really touched on that anyway. But
well, it's a very fair question, Councillor Carroll. Actually, I didn't touch enough on the sponsorship, and very funnily enough, it was only 2 days ago that Mally was badgering me both by email and phone because he's got some sponsorship opportunities up his sleeve. Mally, do you want to touch a little bit on some of the ideas you've got planned? You're in active discussions around sponsorship, aren't you?
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Carroll. So obviously we are in current contracts or out of contract with the Welsh Rugby Union. We're also due to start renegotiation with Zipworld over the naming rights for the stadium, and they're some of our two main commercial activities that we use and we do. But we've been approached by a company based in Cardiff looking at roadside advertising, which is something that could generate our service about £20,000 to £30,000 a year through basically giving up some of our land adjacent to some of the main roads. So we've identified two sites, which is the park north of the park in Arius, adjacent to the A55, and also at the rear of Llandudno Junction, leisure centre, which it basically covers the A546 going into Llandudno Junction, Tesco area, that part there. This a request has gone in for more information and for a meeting with planning to see if this is an opportunity that can happen within Conway County. But that's something that we're really excited about, because it's already happening down south. I always whinge that North Wales is always behind the south, and we don't get the same opportunity. Well, this is a fantastic opportunity for us. I know that there have been some roadside advertising done on some of the roundabouts within the county. We all see them as we drive past in a car. These would be electronic signs. We would be able to get use of those signs for our services. We can keep some of that back as part of the deal. So it's something for me that's really, really exciting, because we've been tasked with being more commercial. Whilst this doesn't really have a leisure connection to it, it's using leisure assets, Conway's assets, to create more money with not a lot of risk to Conway.
Yeah, very good.
That's good. Yeah, and the other question I was going to ask is obviously was about the RGCWRU contract, and do you feel that's obviously you're still in negotiation now, and I know it's difficult times at the moment, isn't it? But and with Fit World going forward.
I think my personal opinion is as soon as all this is over, our concerts will be full to the rafters. Our rugby games will be full to the rafters, because everyone's missing it. Everyone, you go back 10 years when we first started with the Welsh under-20s, with concerts with RGC, the crowds were huge. And over time, they have slightly slipped, because it becomes the norm. What the current situation is created is a hunger, a desire for people to get back to these things, because it's been taken away from people. Conversations we've had with the Welsh Rugby Union have been really positive. They've come right off the bat and said they want to keep the under-20s up north, which it would be easy for them just to take it back down south, to be honest. So we've provided them with a lot of support. They've got some fantastic facilities and areas that they can train from. They bring squads up every now and again. We've had the Welsh senior team. We've had a range of international teams play there. The facility is that good. It's international standard. And I think that the Welsh Rugby Union appreciate that. I know that RGC appreciate that. We've got a site there that can deliver fantastic concerts each summer. So I think that there's definitely going to be a demand there. And again, we just need to be able to take that on board when we return to whatever the new normal is.
Happy with that, Carol?
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much. Okay, and our final speaker, Councillor Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Mally. Everything that's been said tonight, it's great to hear, the work that you've been doing, and it's also been great to hear about the assurances for the future of it. But when I was looking at the report and I saw the images of Llandudno Junction Leisure Centre, although I've never used it, I couldn't believe that was a local authority facility. It's one of the best looking facilities I've seen. I've not been into a gym for maybe 10 years, but it looked fantastic. But when you search our leisure facilities using any search engine, one, it's very difficult to come across it. Two, when you get into a council website, which is the drabbest looking thing I've ever seen, it doesn't invite you into it any further than clicking on the link. And the photos in there aren't even as good as the ones we've received in this report. So I would hope with your vision for ACL that, you really go at the branding. That's got to be the key. As soon as you click Llandudno Junction Leisure Centre, it needs to not take you to the Conway site at all, because it just turns you off straight away. It needs to be that bright orange and then blues that you're seeing in the images. It needs to make you want to continue on, because when you search a gym, you're motivated to go and look at it. If at the point straight away you see a council website with the drab colours we've got at Conway on the website, and it's all very Microsoft DOS and the standard print, you're looking at Le Sport in Ross-on-Sea straight away. You're looking at competitors for that drive. You don't get that, but from seeing the images and your enthusiasm, that is our product. We just need to get it over to those that are searching for it. So I wish you all the best. Hopefully we get some wind back in our sails after putting this COVID behind us. And yeah, I hope you look to take some of them comments on board. Thank you.
Councillor
Chair,
Michael.
can I respond to that?
I was going to say, you're going to make Mally cry with joy. You wait for what he's got for you all.
Okay, so over the current financial year, we've been we've identified that is an issue. Our brand, our focus, what we sell to our customers as part of the commercial activity. We've been developing an app for our customers. We're working with Conway's IT department to create a commercially driven website that people can click on, like you said, with all the imagery that's there to promote the need, the want to exercise, to join our membership. We're creating that behind the scenes. We're creating a contact center, so for people that need to speak to people on the phone, we're creating that so our receptionists can deal with the people in front of them, to deal with their queries, with their questions, to give them the service that the public deserve within Conway. So we've been doing massive amounts of work in terms of the rebranding. We've created a new design. We've worked with local companies to deliver that. It's massively positive, and that's what Jane was saying before, is that when we reopen, the intention is people are going to walk in and not know where this has come from. It's going to be brand new. It's going to be fresh. It's going to inspire people to get out and exercise, which is what we're in business for. So totally take your comments on board, and hopefully you'll be suitably impressed when we bring it to the fore.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully get me over the threshold of a gym.
There's a challenge.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Harry, you had a proposal regarding the Excellent Fund.
Yes, I did.
And was that seconded by anybody?
Well, I will if you want me to. Thanks, Harry. I'll second you.
Thank you very much, Joe. So the proposal was that we have a report regarding the Excellence Fund and why not all the monies are being allocated.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, it might just be a clarification of understanding of how it works, but we will look forward to that report coming forward if officers can. It might take a bit of time because obviously, as you heard, Harry, they're extremely busy, but we'll look at that. We'll look at that going forward. If members are happy with that, could you please show?
Sorry to interrupt. I think it might be wise to do a roll call just to make sure that all members are clear and okay. So I'll read your names out, and if you indicate whether you're for, against, or abstaining. Councillor Carol Beard.
For.
Councillor Phil Capper.
For.
Councillor Jeff Corrie.
For.
Councillor Samantha Cotton.
For.
Councillor Keith Eales. Keith must have gone. Councillor Chris Hughes.
For.
Councillor Ian Jenkins has gone. Councillor Abdul. Councillor Don Milne.
For.
Councillor John Roberts.
Obliged.
Councillor Harry Saville.
For.
Councillor Michael Smith.
For.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Obliged.
Councillor Bob Squire. I think Bob must have gone. Councillor Joan Vaughan. Gone. And Councillor Aaron Wynne.
Obliged.
Thank you, members. That's 11 in favour.
Thank you. Jane Richardson's asking, was there a motion for Councillor Michael Smith to join the Council gym? I don't know.
I'll second that as well.
All right.
Yeah, before you go, can I just confirm, I think Councillor Don mentioned about the WA audit report. Can I just confirm it has been to the audit committee on the 24th of February last year? So what I'll do, I'll circulate the link to everybody. So you're
Yes,
aware.
it has.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Mally, thank you for the report. It was for noting. If members are happy to note that report, could you please just raise your hands? Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mally. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, members.
To everybody for being here this evening. Keep safe and take care. Driving home.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.